Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how, as we get older, we sometimes regret things we've said in moments of frustration or vulnerability? The truth is, there are certain things that, once spoken, can never be taken back, and they can shift the balance of our relationships in ways we never intended. Make no mistake, as we accumulate wisdom, we also accumulate regrets, and one of the greatest regrets people express in their later years is revealing too much. What you share can impact how you are seen, and sometimes keeping certain things to yourself is the wisest choice. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Let's take a step back and truly consider these 5 things. Not to deceive, but to protect the sanctity of our lives and relationships. Not to distance ourselves from others, but to preserve the dignity and peace that as we grow older become increasingly priceless. The passage of time reveals something undeniable: regret. It can be one of the heaviest burdens we carry, a constant reminder of paths not taken, choices that could have been different. And as the years accumulate, that weight only intensifies. With every passing year, we begin to see more clearly how certain decisions could have dramatically changed our lives. It's only natural to want to express these regrets, to unburden ourselves to our loved ones, and to share the weight of those choices in the hope that doing so will bring a sense of relief or closure. But what's often overlooked is how this act, though seemingly harmless, can inadvertently hurt the very people we care about the most. When we as parents or elders reveal our deepest regrets, especially to our children, it can change the way they view themselves in their own lives. For instance, a father who expresses his regret over not pursuing a different career might unknowingly cause his children to question their own career choices. A mother who reflects on lost opportunities or relationships may make her children feel as though their paths were built on a shaky foundation of mistakes rather than love and effort. The heartbreaking realization that someone they look up to, someone they've loved and trusted, has lived with such profound remorse can plant seeds of doubt in their hearts. It can make them wonder if they're a product of failure or disappointment rather than a source of pride. The sheer weight of this can be emotionally crushing for them. Moreover, this constant dwelling on the past, this obsessive need to vocalize regrets, takes away from the present, from what is still good and beautiful in our lives. When we repeatedly talk about what could have been, we create an atmosphere filled with sorrow, longing, and what-ifs. It takes away the lightness that the family should bring and replaces it with a quiet sadness. Instead of celebrating the present, celebrating our lives, our loved ones, the time we have left, we become prisoners of the past. We allow it to cast a shadow over the now. In this way, family members can start to feel as though their presence isn't enough, that their efforts to care for their aging parent or loved one are somehow failing to bring the joy and peace that should come from being together. What should be a bond of love and connection may begin to feel like a burden. There's also a danger that comes with expressing regret too often. It can slip into bitterness. Regret, when shared in moderation, can be a tool for growth and reflection, but when it becomes a constant theme of conversation, it shifts into something much darker. It becomes an endless loop of disappointment, a cycle that never seems to break. Instead of offering insight or guidance, it starts to breed despair. Children and family members may withdraw, not because they don't care, but because they feel helpless. They know they cannot change the past. They know that no amount of love or effort can undo what has already been done. And so they retreat, emotionally exhausted by a constant barrage of sorrow, guilt, and unresolved pain. Instead of connection, instead of growth, they feel only the weight of another person's unhealed wounds. And it's not that these feelings should be suppressed or ignored altogether. There is, however, wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. There's strength in understanding that some reflections are best kept private, not to shield others from the truth, but to protect them from the emotional burden of our regrets. Rather than unloading them onto loved ones, we can choose to focus on the lessons we've learned, on the wisdom we've gained, and share that with them. In doing so, we help them see a brighter future rather than casting a shadow over their potential. When it comes to financial matters, the same rule applies. Money, as personal as it is, can create immense strain within families, especially when we're too open about our struggles or successes. Financial issues are delicate. Yes, honesty is essential, But there's a fine line between transparency and oversharing, and crossing that line can create complications that no one anticipates. Money has the unique power to alter relationships in subtle, insidious ways. It can shift how we are perceived by our loved ones, and it can create expectations that weren't there before. What may have begun as a casual discussion about financial stress or success can quickly turn into something much more charged, something that starts to eat away at the fabric of the family dynamic. Talking too openly about financial difficulties can cause unnecessary stress and anxiety among family members. Children, no matter their age, may feel pressured to step in, to help bear the financial weight of their parents, sometimes even at the cost of their well-being. A grown child, hearing their parents' worries about money over and over again, may begin to feel compelled to make sacrifices, to dip into their savings to help, even when they can't afford it. This isn't out of a lack of love, it's out of a sense of duty, of wanting to alleviate their parents' suffering. But over time, this can lead to resentment, not because they don't care, but because they feel trapped between their responsibilities and the expectation to support someone who, ultimately, they can't fix. The relationship becomes burdened by financial guilt rather than love. On the flip side, constantly talking about financial success can bring its own set of challenges. When wealth is too frequently discussed, family members may start to feel entitled. They may expect that because their loved one is well off, they are owed assistance or even a share of that wealth. This can strip them of their agency as they begin to rely on the idea that they will be taken care of rather than taking the necessary steps to secure their financial future. Sibling rivalry may emerge as comparisons are made. Some may feel that others are unfairly benefiting, leading to resentment and even jealousy. What's worse, the moment money becomes a common topic of conversation, relationships begin to shift. Family members no longer see the person, they see their bank account. The person becomes a source of financial support, a tool to relieve their burdens, rather than a loved one to be cherished for who they are. And if the person is facing financial hardship, suddenly they're a burden, something to be avoided rather than embraced. It changes everything. In these situations, discretion is key. By being selective in our financial conversations, we ensure that relationships remain rooted in love, respect, and mutual understanding, rather than shifting into realms of obligation, guilt, and financial dependency. It's often more powerful to offer guidance, to share our experiences, rather than to lay bare every single financial detail. In the end, it's our love, our wisdom, and our strength that matter far more than anything else. Family dynamics are inherently complex, and the relationships between family members often come with deeply layered emotions and long histories. It's only natural that over time, certain family members may become the subject of personal opinions, both positive and negative. When emotions run high or frustrations build over the years, it might seem tempting to voice those feelings freely. However, there is something profoundly important to recognize here. Once words are spoken, they cannot be unsaid. They linger in the air, seep into the heart, and often they change the very fabric of a relationship in ways we may never expect or fully understand. Words are powerful, much more than we give them credit for, and they can reshape family dynamics permanently. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment one below to let me know that you are still here with me. One of the most devastating consequences of expressing strong opinions about family members, especially those with whom we have deep connections, is the division that follows. When a parent openly expresses disappointment in a son-in-law or frustration with a daughter's choices, the effects ripple far beyond that one conversation. The child who hears this is placed in a difficult, almost unbearable position. It's a situation where they feel pulled between loyalty to their spouse and loyalty to their parent, each side feeling like a tug on their heartstrings. What might have started as an attempt at honest expression can quickly evolve into a festering wound of resentment, leaving family gatherings feeling uncomfortable and forever changing the tone of interactions. There's a silent destruction in the misinterpretation of words. No matter how carefully we try to express ourselves, the truth is that people always filter our words through their own emotions and their histories. So a simple remark about someone's lifestyle, parenting choices, or financial decisions can easily be taken as a judgment rather than an observation. Even a comment made with good intentions can become the seed of doubt or insecurity in someone else's heart. And once that seed is planted, it grows, slowly but surely into something toxic. Over time, if criticisms, whether blatant or subtle, become a recurring theme, trust begins to erode. The very relationships we hold dear can start to fray at the edges, and family members might begin to distance themselves. This isn't out of lack of love, it's a self-preservation instinct. People do this not because they don't care, but because they need to protect their emotional well-being from becoming entangled in hurtful words. What's even more dangerous is how opinions once shared can start to influence others. A negative view about a sibling, cousin, or in-law can quickly morph into a shared perception across the family. What was once a personal grievance, perhaps fleeting and contained, soon becomes the lens through which everyone else begins to see that person. This can be incredibly unfair to the individual being judged, but the emotional toll doesn't stop there. Once a personal issue becomes a family-wide topic, it creates unnecessary drama and divides people who once stood united. The unity of family, a bond built on shared history and love, starts to fracture, replaced by animosity and division that could have been avoided. Sometimes restraint is the greatest form of wisdom we can show. Choosing to withhold certain opinions is not a denial of honesty. Rather, it is an understanding that relationships need careful nurturing. Not everything needs to be voiced aloud. A truly healthy relationship recognizes when silence holds more power than words. Being honest and direct is valuable, but knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when to remain quiet, is where true emotional strength lies. Harmony within a family doesn't mean everything is perfect, but it does mean that we understand that our words, when chosen with care, can nurture or destroy. Silence, in many ways, becomes the vehicle for peace. And just as delicate is the matter of health. As we age, our health inevitably becomes a more frequent topic of conversation, often with good reason. But there is a fine line between keeping family informed and overwhelming them with every minor ailment. It's natural to want to share our struggles, especially when they affect us physically, but there is a subtle danger in making health the focal point of every interaction. What was once a conversation centered around love and connection begins to shift, and before we know it, we are no longer seen as the strong, wise figure we've always been, but as someone fragile, defined by their illness. It's an incredibly hard reality to face. Constantly talking about health issues can inadvertently transform the dynamic of a relationship, particularly with family. Instead of engaging in deep, meaningful conversations about life, the focus shifts to symptoms, medications, and doctor visits. While family members may offer support out of genuine concern, this shift can lead to a sense of isolation. The person struggling with health issues no longer feels like a beloved family member, but a patient. And while everyone has the best intentions, this focus on illness can make someone feel like they are reduced to a diagnosis, rather than celebrated for who they are as a whole person. Even more heart-wrenching is the emotional weight placed on the family, particularly children, who may begin to feel overwhelmed by their inability to fix the situation. There's an underlying guilt that grows in their hearts, one that tells them they should be doing more, offering more, but they can't. And that's what makes them pull away, less out of a lack of love, and more out of the overwhelming sadness and helplessness that their attempts to heal can never truly change the situation. It's an emotional exhaustion that leads to avoidance, and that only deepens the divide. These situations are not easy to navigate, but wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to hold back. Sharing too much, whether it's personal opinions or health concerns, can inadvertently cause more harm than good. It's not that we should hide our feelings or pretend that everything is fine when it's not. It's about balance, restraint, and above all, protecting the emotional sanctity of the family. Sometimes letting time heal wounds and choosing silence over constant expression is the most loving choice we can make. This is the delicate dance of family life, a dance that requires both strength and grace. Moreover, the psychological impact of frequently discussing health issues cannot be overstated. While it's natural to want to share struggles with loved ones, focusing too much on illness can inadvertently reinforce a mindset of decline. This constant verbalization of physical discomforts or ailments can make them feel even more overwhelming, turning them from manageable issues into all-consuming ones. It's a psychological trap where speaking about health struggles too often can magnify them, making it harder to remain mentally and emotionally strong. Words have power, especially the ones we speak to ourselves. If we constantly talk about our bodies failing or feeling weak, it becomes harder to maintain the belief that we are still capable and that we still have strength, both physically and mentally. This shift can alter not only personal well-being, but the way others see us. Family members, even those with the best intentions, may begin to treat us as fragile, even in moments when we still have strength and resilience. That's why the intention behind sharing health concerns is so important. When we speak about our health, it should be done thoughtfully, with a clear focus on what's necessary for those around us to know. Sharing with intention means finding a balance between acknowledging our struggles and maintaining a sense of dignity. It's not about bottling up every pain or fear, but rather understanding that the way we present our health is a reflection of how we see ourselves. If we constantly frame our experiences in terms of limitations, others will begin to perceive us in that light as well. Maintaining that balance ensures that relationships stay grounded in genuine connection, not overshadowed by ongoing discussions of illness. Fear, as much as we try to avoid it, is an inevitable part of life, especially as we grow older and face the unknowns of the future. Aging, loss, and uncertainty about what lies ahead often bring with them a natural sense of anxiety. It's completely understandable to want to share these fears with family, seeking reassurance or comfort from those closest to us. However, when fears are voiced too frequently or too openly, the impact can be far more detrimental than we realize. While it's normal to express concerns, especially about aging, loneliness, or the changing world around us, repeatedly vocalizing those worries can create unnecessary emotional strain for loved ones. When we share our fears too openly, it can unintentionally place an emotional burden on those we care about. Family members, particularly children, want to see their elders as pillars of wisdom, strength, and stability. It can be disheartening for them to hear constant expressions of fear, especially when they don't have easy answers or solutions. When we repeatedly express anxieties about our health, finances, or the future, they may begin to feel as though they are powerless to help. This sense of helplessness doesn't come from a lack of love. It stems from the overwhelming desire to make things better, to reassure their loved ones, but the reality is that they cannot solve every fear. This imbalance can lead to guilt, stress, and even frustration as family members try to balance their own lives while feeling a heavy, unspoken obligation to ease the fears of the people they love. Rather than deepening our connections, this dynamic can foster emotional exhaustion. The constant weight of trying to comfort someone who seems perpetually anxious can leave family members feeling drained. They might begin to withdraw, not because they don't care, but because they feel they are not enough. No matter how much they try, they can never bring enough peace or solace. In this way, the very act of sharing our fears too often can unintentionally push people away, making them feel like they are trapped in an emotional cycle with no way to break it. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. What's more, the relentless focus on fears about the future can change how others see us. When we constantly talk about our fears, whether it's about declining health, financial insecurity, or being alone, it can cause others to perceive us as overly fragile or incapable of handling life's challenges. In many cases, this perception leads to overprotectiveness or even well-intentioned but limiting behaviors. Family members may start making decisions for us rather than with us. They may treat us as though we can no longer manage certain aspects of our lives, diminishing our autonomy and independence. Over time, this can erode the dignity and sense of control that we value so deeply. It's incredibly important to find a balance in how we express our concerns. Sharing fears is part of being human, but constantly returning to them can shift the way others perceive us. Instead of being seen as an individual still capable of navigating life's challenges, we may inadvertently create the impression that we are fragile or incapable of facing adversity on our own. This ultimately can leave us feeling less empowered, less in control of our lives, and more dependent on others. Instead of feeling like an active participant in our future, we may begin to feel as though others are deciding that future for us. And in the process, we lose not just our independence, but our dignity as well. As we wrap up today's discussion, we've explored some powerful truths about how our words and actions shape our relationships, our well-being, and the way we navigate our fears. We've touched on how focusing too much on illness or constantly voicing our concerns can affect not just ourselves, but also those we love the most. The key takeaway here is the balance between sharing and protecting, knowing when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to preserve the dignity and strength of our relationships while still expressing our needs. So what have you learned from today's video? What is one thing that stood out to you that you can bring into your own life and practice moving forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave your comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content like this. Your support means the world to us, and we're so grateful to have you as part of our community.